Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming this afternoon. My name's Paul Moakley. I'm the Deputy Director of Photography at Time Magazine, and I'm really honored to be here today with Alejandro Chaskielberg, who is an Argentinian photographer, and I hope most of you had the chance to go check out a show last night of his latest project, Otsuchi Future Memories, which documents a community in Japan about a year after the tsunami, looking at sort of the people who were horribly impacted by this tragic tsunami and earthquake, and doing a portrait study of the town and the lives, and collaborating with them and their old photography. And I think one of the things that we just wanted to look at today was just kind of start with what happened during the tsunami, and Alejandro has a video clip of the actual moment from the town where he was working in. So do you want to set this up?
Yes. Buonasera. I'm very happy to be here and to share this talk with you, Paul. Thank you very much for coming. I will start showing an introduction of what the video that I saw for the first time. So in this video you see the destruction of the tsunami in Otsuchi town. Sorry, there's without internet. Perhaps we close the door and the internet goes. Well, sorry for that, but that was the first video that I saw when, in 2012, I was going. Before to go to Otsuchi, I made two individual exhibitions of my previous project in Tokyo. So I get involved with what was happening in this in the aftermath of the tsunami. One of the curators of one of the shows, a Japanese curator, Ihiro Hayami, he has relatives in the city. So when we were talking, and he explained me about the tsunami and what happened in that city, I decided to go there at the beginning to do a research of what was left after the tsunami. I came to the city 1 year and a half after the tsunami happened. And Ihiro introduced me with their parents-in-law, and we went there for 15 days on the first trip. When I was doing the research of what has happened there in the city, I saw this video, and it was shock because the destruction in this city was perhaps it is the worst destroyed city in Japan. Around 60% of the city was destroyed. Actually, the people didn't expect that the tsunami was so big, so they didn't escape. And 10% of the population died. So when I was on my first trip to the city, I started shooting what I found there. I started shooting the debris. I will show you now this PDF. Actually, this PDF is the preview layout of my upcoming book. This is the first page of the book. So, what I am, sorry, please interrupt me when you want to. The first thing that I show that I see in the city was huge mountains of debris. So they clean up all the city and they build huge mountains where you can see fishing buoys, fishing nets, parts of houses, a vending machine, a bicycle. So all the elements that the people lost were there. So in a way, it was my first approach to this project, and the first view that I see when I arrived to the city. So I started doing these images that were taken during the night. So in a way, for me, are like, it's kind of paintings, because they are so spectacular to view these elements, and they talk a lot about the city and about the destruction. There on the image of the left, these are parts of houses. So the Japanese are very organized, so they start putting together the same kind of debris, so wooden debris on one side. On the other side, there are parts of, on the right, you can see part of cars. There are some mountains that has many things. On the right, you can see a motorbike. Visually, it was very shocking to see all these elements destroyed and together. So I think it was an interesting way of talking about the tragedy. But I came to the city after doing some research, as I said, and when I was looking at the pictures of the inhabitants of the city, they used to go back to the empty place where their homes used to be and take the pictures there. So as I was doing night photography on my previous projects, I decided to invite them to go to these empty places. I invite families to go to the debris of their homes, and I start shooting them in these places. Well, I will go with one of the images. The first, after 1 year, you can find many elements from the people. This is a passport. This is a street light. And when I found this family album, this is like a key point of this project, because I found this family album on the street. It was inside a blue box. It's a typical boxes they use for when they go to fish. They put all the fish inside this box. And after the tsunami, they used this kind of boxes to pick up and hold all the elements that were found nearby. So every time I saw these kind of boxes, I stopped with the car and pick up and try to see what's going inside. And I found this album, and it was very shocking, because all the images were there, but this book has like color bubbles, because it was completely wet. So when you push the bubble, the colors start to move around the image. It's like a living watercolor. So I really get shocked about this, because this album talks about the tragedy. You can see some things, you can see there is one of the images on the left, and there is a group of people on the Tokyo airport. Well, this is, as I said, the book. And this is an aerial view of the city. As you can see, this image is damaged. This image was recovered from the waters after 1.5 years. I found that image, and I found several images on the street. Well, I will start with this. So at the beginning, as I said, I found the city was destroyed, but you can see the way they built the houses. They put they made the shape of the house with concrete. To prevent against earthquake, they built all the houses with wood and metal. So when the tsunami came, all the houses were destroyed, but the only thing that remained were the concrete, and also the entrance of the houses, and also the bathrooms. And this is what I start doing with the people. They are in the empty space of their houses. And somehow, when I get into the city, I felt very upset of what I was seeing, and somehow I decided to take pictures in black and white. At that moment, I didn't know how I will finish that images, because my previous projects were also very in color and very powerful colors. So somehow I didn't know how I will finish, but I was feeling very upset to see all the destroyed city. I couldn't see any color in the city. It was like more like my feeling when I go there. So when I found that family album, I decided to recover those colors from the destroyed images and use those colors to put color to my own images. So as you can see, the images has some parts in black and white. The image on the right has all the floor, it's black and white, and the other colors were added digitally. So I pick up colors from that family album. I built some color palettes, and I start painting my own images.
Well, one thing that I find really interesting about the work is at a time when, as a news editor, I'm looking at everything that's coming through the wires and looking at news photography, in the aftermath of the tsunami. And it's usually, everyone's usually interested right in the immediate impact in the news, and people tend to forget about things. They move on with, the next story that's happening in the world. And I think it's really interesting that you started off as a journalist. I don't know if a lot of people know that in the room, but then you kind of went in the opposite direction and really started to use this much slower process, and it kind of turns in the face from the speed of social media and photojournalism, the way we work today. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Yes, I started doing photojournalism very young. So when I was 18, I was working on the main magazine in Argentina. At that time, it was a very difficult moment for the people, because there were a big crisis. Some people relate that crisis is closer to what's happening now in Greece. So there was huge demonstrations. I really wanted to tell stories about this social change, and I focused on that. But at the same time, I was studying cinematography. So during the night, I get into the school and I set up lights for different stories, fictional stories. So my life was breaking in two. So during the daytime, I was doing documentary, and during nighttime, I was setting up lights for fictional stories. When I was 22, I get bored about doing these very short-term projects of documentary projects. I wanted to do more long-term projects. It was not possible in the media in Argentina. So I quit. Actually, I left photography for 4 years. I didn't take any picture during the 4 years, and well, I devote myself to music, to play music in a classical conservatory. So that's another story. But I stopped doing photography, and I think when I came back to photography, I could make a more personal approach, and I always try to tell these stories where people live on the marginal people, not perhaps pure people. For example, in my first project, the High Tide, my first long-term project, I photographed a community of islanders who live very isolated. The story, it's almost conflictless. You know, there is stories of people living on an island, pure people, but it was the first time I decided to set up images with real people and do these nighttime images. Well,
was it difficult to take that approach that you did in Argentina and bring it here to Japan and do it in a whole other community and in a totally different country?
Well, no, it wasn't difficult because after my first experience in Argentina, people talking my same language. I did some projects, one in Africa, in Kenya, for an NGO. So I photographed people who were suffering famine. I realized that the people enjoyed a lot, even living that situation. People still want, they have desires, they love, they get in love, so they have a normal life. You know, they want same as you and me. So taking these nighttime images where they have to remain still for 10 minutes or up to 10 minutes, sometimes it's like funny, you know, for them. It's a moment that, you know, you are close to your family, but if you think perhaps you have never been with your family in completely silence still for a couple of minutes. So there is something special that happens at that time. So I can feel that when I am working, and I wanted to put the Japanese people in this situation, but in a place that are emotionally very shocking for them, like the debris of their own houses. The challenge was to convince them to be there. No, of course it was, but when we were there, it was like a sacred moment, you know, a moment like where we were like, you know, when you go to a cemetery and you are like talking very slowly and very calm. So the atmosphere there was like this, and sometimes the kids were scared of being on the debris of their home, so sometimes they refused to go there. But my first approach was because I know a family. So in the city, there are no people who speak English, so I always had to be with a translator. And some kids, when we met the kids in the supermarket, they get afraid of me because they never saw Western people, you know, in person. So sometimes it was quite funny because the kids, you know, they are so supernatural, so they react like going away from me. I know that. So the most difficult part was, you know, to get involved with the inhabitants of the city. The first images that I took were familiars or people who were friends, people who were close to the hero's family, you know, to the family that I know. That was my first experience. But then, on my second trip, I did a workshop in the city because there were some students that started photographing after the tsunami. They lost all their family photographs and their perhaps parents, so they start shooting. And there were also students that stopped studying because of the tsunami. So I did a workshop in the city. So that connected me a lot with the people, with the inhabitants, and even the students introduced me more people from the city.
With the hand coloring of the work, some of the work, it has a really interesting effect. It sometimes looks vintage, and at the same time, it looks very contemporary and surreal. Could you talk a little bit about how you do that? You're not actually like hand coloring and painting. Could you talk about like how you approach that and what you hope the effect is?
Yeah. Actually, I tried different techniques to paint the images. At the beginning, I made some hand coloring, but I realized that what I really want, it's more like a concept. I wanted to pick up the colors from the real colors from the destroyed images. I will show you something that is why I get in love with this. You can see this is one of the images that is exhibited here. So you can see what's happening here. So this is amazing. Visually, it's so amazing. And what I started to do was picking up these colors like this. You move, and you can see all the colors that are inside the pictures. And I build the color palettes. Well, it's very, technically it's very simple, but I did with Photoshop because I wanted exactly the same color. I wanted that the color became a bridge between those images and my images. That's why I made with digital. Yeah.
How long did it take you to to actually shoot the pictures, and then when the process of hand coloring everything and assembling the book? How much time does that kind of project take you?
The project took me from 2012 to 2015, so 3 years. I made 3 different trips. I spent in total 2 months in the city. The color processing it's something that I do over some months, perhaps 1 year, because I don't finish one image at a time. So I start working with many images at the same time and many color palettes, and I move forward and I go back, and so it took me around, I think, 1 year to put the color of the images, to select which image from which image I will pick up the color and which image to colorize.
The sequence of the book is really beautiful, and I'm hoping you could just take us back through some of the pages and kind of show how the vintage pictures, the found photographs that were destroyed, inform some of the newer photographs that you've taken. Could you just take us through some of them slowly? And also, I'm so interested in knowing what you kind of learned along the way from these people and why you chose certain locations. Could you tell us a little bit about these?
Every single image has a story. For example, the image on the left, that there are beaches there that are very good for surfing. So there are a lot of surf, culture in the area. The surfers love the waters, of course. So that's what I decided to take the picture. They are over one of the barriers that against the tsunami. So this concrete wall protected the city against the tsunami. Of course, it didn't work because it was not tall enough. And this was left on the beach. So the man in the middle, he owned a surf store, so he sells surf tables. And every single image has his own story. So this lady was on the living room of her house.
One other thing that I think is really important for people to realize is that these are very long exposures and the subjects are sitting here for a long time. Could you talk about how you actually light people and make them, how you like actually get to freeze them on the film and make them pop in these pictures in this way?
Yeah, well, this image is around from 6 to 8 minutes, this particular image. Let me see if I can make it high. Well, what I do, I work with a large format camera, 4x5. As I said, this was taken with black and white film. I set up the camera, and at the same time I set up a digital camera behind this one, so I can preview what is going to be the exposure. Sometimes one of the main challenges is that the people moves in the middle of the image, so at the end they look like ghosts. So that's why I use the digital just to pre-visualize the finish of the image, how the image is going. I shoot around 6 sheets of film every time, from 5 to 6, and it takes me 3 hours. So as you told, it's nowadays it's weird, to take this process.
People don't understand that they have to sit for a picture. They're like, why aren't you just going to snap it?
Yeah, of course.
I'm sure you get that all the time.
all the time it happens. But well, also this technique, it's not only visually, aesthetically important. It has, it's how to say, the people and the faces, their expressions get affected because they have to be still, and so they decide, how to be for 8 minutes and how a position that they can keep for 6 minutes without moving. So all this technique makes the people stay in a particular way. It's not like a direct shot that you can be like jumping or something like this. So it's well, for Japanese people, for me was very easy to work with Japanese people because they has their own spirit is very calm and slow, and that was very good to work with them.
Yeah, it definitely, again, is like reminiscent of like vintage photography where you're not seeing people like smiling and making like a duck face for like a selfie. There's this very dignified sense of self, and you kind of get to see their true face in some sense where they're not like posing for you as much. They have to be able to like just hold themselves just for a while. And could we go through some more of the book? And this image here on of the structure here is really beautiful because you kind of, could you talk about the process behind that one? I thought that one was really interesting.
Well, I will show, let me show you that image.
Because in some sense, there's like a performative element to your work. It's like there's this like temporal structure in there, and it's done. You're actually creating that structure in the photograph. It wasn't something that you just found there.
So this, as you say, this is like a performance or an action. No? What I did here was work in the debris of a house. I think this was taken last December. So perhaps it's the only house that in the city that remain, the debris. So what I did here, you can see the hands of my assistants. So they were holding. We built an ark made with plastic. So the assistants put the ark, and I paint with a flashlight, and then we move the ark in different. We made different stops. You can see the hands are the same people. So there are two assistants that worked with me. So this is more like I know. For me, it's the most different image inside the work, and it's more a concept of how to rebuild on how to reconstruct the city. But I think that the whole project talks about this. How we can rebuild a memory that was lost, because our family photographs, even in this city, that they don't used to take digital images, not before the tsunami. So, and there are elderly people living there. So I think in a way they keep all the memories in paper. So when they lost the paper, they lost part of the memory and part of the identity. Well, I will show some. You're going too fast. Sorry. Okay. The image on the right is a view of the cemetery. It's the same cemetery where it was shot, the video that I showed you at the beginning. The image on the left, it's an abandoned water. It's to keep the tsunami away from the city. I don't know how to say, but it's abandoned because it didn't work. But it was not too tall. The image on the right is a view of the city before it. One part of the city that was not destroyed. They start putting some signals on the roads where you can see where the last tsunami start and last tsunami end. So they advise now when you are in danger. I want to go to one of the images, this one. So here is clear that the colors that I pick up from the left image were used to colorize the image on the right, and that happened the same here. The deers. These are deer dancers. It's a very ancestral dance that they pray for good having a good fishing or good harvest. So they dress in this way, like deers. So I found that image that. Of course, the colors were affected, and it looks like a comic colors more than a real photograph.
So besides like recording the damage and the destruction and the people, you began to photograph like the traditions and things like bonsai and like the dances and things like that. Did that happen as the project evolved?
Yeah, you're right. It happened on the third trip. At the beginning, I started working in what was shocking for me, that was the destroyed city. But then I saw that I had to start talking about the culture of Japan that is so special and so great. That's why I include this bonsai tree that you can see on the right. It's a 100-year-old bonsai tree that was made by a man there in the city. I put it together with this image. And I think that I start a dialogue between these two images, and sometimes it happens that perhaps the relationship between these two images is the shape, but it's also, well, an elderly woman perhaps with their grandson, and and on the other hand, the bonsai tree that's lived for hundreds of years. Yeah, I thought it was very important for the project to start adding these elements that talks about the culture of Japan.
The book is edited beautifully. When does the book actually come out?
Well, the book is coming out in October. Last year I won an award that's called, the name is Ibero-American Photo Book Award. So they choose this project between all the Latin American, Ibero-American projects presented. It will be published by Editorial RM in Spain and Mexico, Spanish-Mexican. Well, we are working on the final layout. Hopefully tomorrow I will receive the final layout, so it's very exciting. It's very exciting, yeah. And it will have the preface of Daido Moriyama. He was one of the part of the jury of this award, and in a way, I think it's very good when you are working. And we are talking about the tragedy that didn't happen in your hometown. You have to be very respectful with the people, and in a way, I think that I have the freedom of working in this experimental approach. Perhaps perhaps a Japanese photographer can make it in this way because they are emotional, close to the tragedy. But I'm coming from the other side of the world. Well, having the foreword from Daido Moriyama, in a way, it's like a support for the project, and well, I think it works.
That's great. Could you take us through the rest of the book? We don't have that much time left. I just really want everyone to see it. And also, should we take some questions from the audience? I was wondering if anyone had any questions for Alejandro? Amber?
What have you done with the found pictures and photo album?
I found by myself, and that's very important because by myself I found a couple of images, perhaps five or six, even that family album. I was very shocked when I saw that, and I left in the same place where I found. I pick up it, I for a couple of days, and I shoot with a. When I had some free time, I shoot with a large format, reproduced it, and then I left in the same place. But on the second trip, I found an NGO that was working recovering the images. So they built an amazing archive of images because so weird because images from family photographs, all destroyed by the tsunami, and all the images came in from the same city. So they have thousands of images there, and after some time they allowed me to work with those images. So I pick up the images. We built a photo studio on a place they give me to work with, and after that I give the images back. So I don't have any of these images, but well, yeah, I have some high quality reproductions of it.
Any other questions? Yes, one more question.
What do you plan on photographing next?
Good question. Yeah, well, the first part of this year I devote to commercial works because this is a very expensive project, so I spend many thousands of dollars working on this. So now I'm working to pre-produce. I'm pre-producing the next project, and for the first time, I'm working on an autobiographical story. I jump from shooting large format images in the night on the other side of the world to shoot Polaroids in the kitchen of my house. So I'm working. The story is I'm a single father. I'm growing by myself my daughter since she was a year. In the meantime, I'm traveling and working. So I'm documenting this story. You know how is to grow by yourself a daughter, and you know this is a work that will have Polaroid images. I have shot thousands of images now. In the kitchen, in the bedroom, sleeping, you know, like daily life. And well, writing a lot, because one of the most important is, you know, what is the story on the background, what, you know, of a single image on the whole story. And sometimes, as I was talking with Paul, you know, there's a lot of preconceptions when you are a single father, and you go to the school and say, well, I want to inscribe, apply to school for my daughter, and well, there are many stories behind this, what has happened, how the society see at you. So I am writing a lot, and I am doing a family album. So that my next project is a family album, my personal family album.
Are there any other pictures or thoughts you want to take us through? Or let's show people at least to the end of the edit, because it's really a beautiful project. Should we have people vote? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it is family album is the other one. So the image on the left is a studio portrait. When they get married, they take studio images, very classical. Yeah, from maybe I like this one because she's like flying in the air.
Conceptually, it all marries together so perfectly. It's really great to see how you really used all of these to inform your pictures, and it also just gives your subjects come through with so much dignity, and it's great to see that in a project. It doesn't feel like you're shooting and running, and you've also you've shown the work in Japan, and just curious to know what the reaction was when you did that.
Yeah, well, I exhibited this in last February, and there were people from the Otsuchi that came to talk in the opening. One of the people is the one who allowed me to work with the archive, and the other is a man from the government. They look very. They were very helpful for me, and they liked the project. When I was explaining to the man that is I think he has 80 years old, and I was explaining, well, I want to take pictures of this archive because I want to pick up the colors and paint my own images, and he understand. You know, they believe me. They believe in me. And you know, as you said, people move forward, so they forgot very easily. In this city, still now, 40% of the people lives in containers because they are rebuilding and they will live like this for 5 to 10 years more. So actually, the situation is not normal now. So they are living in containers, and everything now in the city happens in a supermarket. There you can have a haircut, you can go to the pharmacy, the birthday are celebrated there, and everything happened in a big supermarket because it was the first big structure that was built after the tsunami. And in October, I will exhibit in this supermarket. So I'm so happy for that. In a way, I'm very happy with the project. As you said, the images are beautiful. I love to take pictures in this way, but also I think that also the beauty is a tool for me to catch up the attention of you, to tell stories in this way, catch up the attention, because why you are going to see images of a destroyed city and people who died 4 years ago? Well, I think beauty is an element that I use also as a tool to catch up the viewer, and so you pay attention to this single story. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing this with us today. Does anyone else have any other questions? Or, well, thank you. Really great to be here with you today. So,
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.